Welcome to Part 5 of the History of Final Fantasy. In this part, we will talk about the latest entry into the series, as well as sequels and prequels, something which had once been unthinkable, but is now commonplace. It seems that the magic number for how many Final Fantasy games will be released during a generation is 3. 3 on the NES, 3 for the Super NES, 3 for PlayStation, and 3 for PlayStation 2. Though this is the case, Square has attempted fourth games in the past. Final Fantasy IV was originally envisioned for the NES and was cancelled, the fifth game being rebranded to compensate. And Final Fantasy VII was originally a Super NES game. That being said, it's actually hard to believe that Final Fantasy XIII started life as a PlayStation 2 game, but it's true. The game and the Crystal Tools engine that powers it were originally envisioned for PlayStation 2, but would wind up becoming one of the most technically advanced current generation games on its release for PlayStation 3. Final Fantasy XIII, like 12 before it, had a long development cycle, and was announced alongside the next game in the series, Final Fantasy XIV Online, which is yet to be released. 13 introduces two worlds, a floating continent of vast technology known as Cocoon, and a wild, untamed world of wilderness, Grand Pulse. The story deals with the relationship between humans and the godlike fal'Cie who control both worlds. Humans who come in contact with fal'Cie can become l'Cie, and are given magical powers and a brand. The l'Cie have a focus, a mission vaguely described only in visions which must be completed. The reward for completing the focus is eternal life in crystal. The punishment for failure is becoming a Seath, a monstrous, mindless creature. The party of characters in the game are a group of l'Cie branded by a Pulse fal'Cie, now shunned by everyone in Cocoon, and trying to discover the nature of their focus. The gameplay borrows different aspects from differing games in the series. For example, like in 11 and 12, there are still no random battles, and enemies are integrated directly into the game world. However, contact with them initiates a separate battle screen for the first time since 10. The ATB gauge also returns for the first time since 9, though the fast-paced, frantic battles have a focus on stacking up many attacks into one ATB to gain chain bonuses and stagger the enemy. Like in 12, only a certain amount of control is offered, with the player controlling the leader of the group, whether this is chosen by the story or later on by the player, with the other characters being controlled by AI, but a variation of the Gambit system called the Paradigm Shift system allows players to direct the actions of the party. Final Fantasy XIII is also noted for its linearity, with most of the game being very straightforward and streamlined. However, the Grand Pulse areas of the game offer exploration and side quests. Leveling is handled in a manner somewhat similar to 10's Spear Grid, using a system called the Crystarium, where points can be spent on differing abilities for the various roles. The roles are also given the game sort of a job system, though one that could be shifted during battle and with only 6 roles as opposed to the large amounts of jobs usually available. Final Fantasy XIII's localization is interesting, as when the game hit European and American markets, it was released simultaneously for both the PlayStation 3 and Xbox 360. The first time that a Final Fantasy game had been released on multiple systems at the same time, and the first time that American and European gamers were privy to something Japanese gamers were not, the Xbox 360 version. Final Fantasy XIII is also the first game in the series to receive an official release in Chinese. Like with 12, the release of 13 was a major event, with merchandising, special editions, limited edition consoles, and large amounts of fanfare. For the localized versions, a contemporary pop song, My Hands by Leona Lewis, was used as the game's main theme song, and the game featured Square's usual marketing push. This turned out to be well worth it, as the game received good reviews, with only the game's linearity being criticized, and sales were extremely strong, making it the fastest-selling Final Fantasy game and one of the highest-profile games of the year. The PlayStation 3 version, the only one reviewed by Famitsu, received a near-perfect score, 39, the 19th and most recent game to get this score, and the second Final Fantasy game to receive it.